Okay, so let's take a look at how you can create SQL Server instance on Google Cloud Platform, and then we will connect that instance to SQL Server Management Studio. So for those who don't know SQL Server Management Studio, let's take a look at that by Googling. So if we click on download option, it should show you the link to download, right? So I already have it on my desktop, so I will just go for SQL Server Management Studio 18. Now I will open it in the background so that we can come back to that later. It usually takes a lot of time to start these things, so I will be letting that in the background. Meanwhile, if we come to Google Cloud Dashboard, you will find that looks like this interface. Right now, let's click on all products. Then we will be going to specifically the database. Now I assume that you have at least free tier of Google Cloud. Also you have billing enabled and you have your project created. In my case, as you can see, the Edu product is here. Okay, now let's assume that everything is set up. So we will go to all products where we will check for databases. So it will scroll to that point where we will click on this particular SQL option, which should take you to the instance page, right? So in my case, I already have instance page, and as you can see, I already have one instance that is running SQL Server 2019 Express. So Google Cloud currently limits you to use either Express, Web, Standard and Enterprise Edition. There is no Developer Edition on Google Cloud as far as I know. In near future that could change, so keep eye on that space. So here we will start with creating a new instance. Click on create instance. Now here you get choice of 3 databases: MySQL, PostgreSQL, SQL Server. And with SQL Server you have option of version 2019 and 17. Choose SQL Server here again, and you get the option. Right here you will have database options: Express, Web, Standard, Enterprise for both year 2017 and 19. These are the LTS versions, so they have longer support. So the small versions won't be listed here. So in near future, if you are seeing, you are most likely be seeing 22 here, and then most likely 25 or 24 here. So choose accordingly, that suits your choice. Right now here you can see instance ID option. I will be typing in something like dev SQL Server and then add the password. Then comes the configuration option. So if you choose production, you will be using some high CPU, high memory options, and if you are just testing things out, I will suggest you to go with development, where your option will be limited, less CPU and limited memory, and just gets the things done. As you can see, this is what you get by default. Then comes region and zone. So it will be the place where your instance will be first deployed. In my case, let's say I am in Asia, so I will select Mumbai. So if you are in Europe, you can pick whatever works for you. In case of Europe, you will notice that there is this green icon that says low emission data centers. You can select them, and that would be a good choice as well. But in my case, in Asia, we don't have any. Neither there is only one in US, so we're kind of limited by option. Now after picking the region, you have zone option. So for test and small database related purpose, you can choose single zone, otherwise multiple zone. Right, then comes customize instance option, where you can see option to customize things. Like, so let's say machine type, where you can choose the CPU and memory. So let's say I have like 2 CPU and memory. You will have things properly set, right? So if you are using it for enterprise or small business, go with higher CPUs and higher RAM memory. Then comes storage. Now in case of storage, you don't have any other option than SSD, so you will choose storage that fits your case. So I'm choosing 20 GB. Earlier it was set to 10 or 100, whatever it was. So we will go with 20 GB to start with. Then it can increase automatically as required. Then comes connection. So let's say this is public IP, so it will allow everyone to access it. So I will just add the network, and here let's see, type in all, and then we use 0 0.0 final 0 4 times, then /0. Click done so that all the IPs will be accepted. Now in case of authentication, we don't have Active Directory, so there won't be that option available. So you will have to use SQL Server as username and password, the one that you set at the top. Then comes data protection. So you can take the backups on the regular intervals at specific times. Pay attention to your time zone in your own data center and also the region for that. Also check how many backups you want to retain each month or each week, whichever is applicable. You can enable point in time recovery, also enable deletion protection. Right now comes the maintenance part. You can choose particular day of the week for month on yearly update, whatever that applies for SQL Server. So whenever those updates are triggered, this particular maintenance window will be checked for those maintenance updates. Then comes flag and parameters, where you can see you can choose your default collation and time zone. So I have selected these defaults. You can use even enable SQL Server audit to set things up. Finally comes the label, so you can use that to sort your SQL resources. And then comes the create instance button, where you can create the SQL Server instance. Right, so pretty much everything you can do easily. Right now when you hit create instance, so I already have one such instance, so I will just click on back button, because if you create instance here, there will be two for me, but in your case you will have to click on create instance, so that instance like this will be created for you. In my case I created that, and it will take me to dashboard, and it will instantly show me the CPU utilization as well. Now at first it will show some movement, then it will get steady if there is no activity. Now we need IP address, and also we need connection options. So like I mentioned, there is option where I set all the IP addresses under network. There is also security tab where I have managed to download the certificate. Both of those have worked for me. Now the next thing would be checking out our options regarding the connections. Right, so if we go and open our management studio, here you see we have to keep the server type as database engine. Then in server name I will have to paste my IP address. So I will copy this, then I will go back here and choose the authentication as SQL Server authentication, where I have to give the name SQL Server, and then the password that we used at the time of creating our instance of SQL Server. Now let's try and paste the password and click connect. Once you do that, you will be able to see the connection in Object Explorer. Now here you have your databases, so system database will be listed like these. Right, so what I will do is I will create one database for you to show you that how it works. So right click, then new database, and here I will name the database. So let's name this MyDB and click on OK. So it should create the MyDB database. Now here, so what we will do is we will right click on our database, click tasks, then import flat file. Here I will click next and then give it the file to import. Right, so I have picked CSV file, I have created the name, also the schema. Now we will click next. Right, and then we have our table. Next thing is clicking next, and we have our primary key as ID. Right, now everything else we will let by default. Click finish, and our data is now inserted. Let's close this and right click on our database, then expand to see the tables, right? And once you see the table, here you see people table created. And now let's select top rows for the same. So it says 1000, but we only have like 10 or so. So let it run that query. Once run, it will show you the data. Now you can see that we managed to create our SQL Server instance on Google Cloud Platform. We also managed to upload some sample data into that database along with a table that was created, and also there is a data that you can query and retrieve. So everything works out. We reached our goal. We created instance of SQL Server on Google Cloud and connected it with SSMS, which is SQL Server Management Studio.